welcome to the podcast, Wilding the Lamb. Today we're going to be going over Mosiah chapter 6 through.
Are we?
100%, dude. I was editing, dude, last week's episode, and I was sad, dude,
About what?
that you're like censoring yourself.
With like language?
Yes, because I was like, dude, we're not getting authentic Christian. And I was like, dude, we can't have a podcast that's like we're trying to figure out how to change and like encompass more people.
Yeah.
And we can't even do that like one-on-one on
It's you're still getting authentic me. Like it's still me, but it's just like whenever I'm at church, yeah, I don't like cuss up a storm at church or whatever. But I'm way more authentic here in this space than I am at church. So I've learned to people who don't like cussing, I respect that of them, and I don't cuss around them, like my parents. Like my parents don't like it. So when I'm at my parents' house, I don't swear in front of them.
Well, good. That's a good thing to do. A good way to respect them and show that respect. But
But maybe I'll throw in a tidbit here and there just to make you happy.
I mean, I don't, and I'm not like sometimes I cuss, but I'm not, and I'm not a big cusser. I've tried to find other ways to use, like, get the point across without using the words. But I do want, like, I want to relate at the same time that it's okay to be your authentic, true self, and like some people do, and I don't think it's a big deal, and I don't think like there are certain instances when I think it's good to like self censor yourself and stuff like that. But at the same time, if we can't like feel comfortable and feel vulnerable and honest enough with each other to like be our authentic selves, then it's not like it's hard for this to go anywhere or to do anything.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And it's it just goes back to like respecting the audience and who the audience is. So I guess if I understood like really who the audience was, then it'd be different. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if I knew it was a bunch of people like me, which it might be, then like cussing up a storm while I'm talking about come follow me might not be might not be bad. But also when I'm talking about, church stuff, I also try to not use vulgar language when I'm talking about God and Christ and things like that out of respect for them. So you still are getting like my authentic self. I'm just I do self censor. Yeah. Depending on who I'm talking to and what I'm talking about and whatnot. But
And that's fine as long as I just wanted to make sure that we were comfortable. And I know you're relatively comfortable, but I was just like, oh, dude, like.
But dude, I mean, if like we get a bunch of people who are on, we're like, we know you cuss, but you never do it on the podcast. Freaking start cussing, then it's just it's all over.
Basically, we just want more comments and more feedback in these videos to see what people like and what people are into. No, because I think it's important. I think that's one thing that definitely differentiates us between other people who are going through Come Follow Me and stuff is like our authenticity and like that we're just two normal
Dudes.
like like it's not like we get paid to devote our life to the scriptures and to the gospel of Jesus Christ. We're doing this, completely voluntarily. This is episode 19, so you and I've been together probably for 19 plus hours since the start of the year, talking about Christ, talking about our experiences and stuff like that. Um, and that doesn't even include like outside of this hour that we usually spend per week,
Right.
preparing, reading the scriptures, editing the video, social media posts, all the kinds of stuff that we do. So like it's a big effort that goes into this. Um, and I just want to make sure that that's authentic always. Because if we can't do that, then to me it's like, what's the point? Like, so anyway, just wanted to make sure that you were comfortable with that, and like feel free to like I'm not worried about that. And if anything, I think it'll make a lot of people feel more comfortable with our podcast.
Yeah. Do you know what cussing like when people cuss in front of me? I'm like, oh, yeah, you're not perfect either. Got it.
Hey, it brings it down to a level of just like, oh, dude, okay, like, all right, we're all on the same field here, and so I think that that's important, and I think that it's something that like if we got more used to doing that with one another, like in the church and outside of the church, maybe not necessarily in the church, but like it would like create some breathing room. Like I feel like church is so like elevated, you're trying to do your best. You've got your kids, they've got to be quiet. Are they folding their arms? Are they reverent during sacrament? Yada yada.
So that kind of goes back to like, uh, doesn't that feel a little two face? Like being one way at church and then a different way outside of church. Like, isn't that like the stereotypical like? So it's like if we're trying to not swear and trying to not do that kind of stuff in church, then why are we not trying to do that outside of church? And honestly, like for me, it just depends on who I'm around. Like if I'm inside the church and I know the dude swears, like I'm swearing.
Swearing. Well, and I'm not necessarily saying, I guess I was thinking more like at the pulpit or like in front of the class or whatever. But like
In class with little kids.
just like start cursing up a storm. No, but I think that there's kind of like you said, like in reverence and respect to the topic and the content,
Mhm.
I think that there's some, some thought and stuff behind it, rather than just like swearing to swear. Like,
Yeah, I guess the difference between like what I was talking about and how I actually am
mhm,
is I don't go to church putting on a face that I don't swear.
yeah,
Like if someone would be like, "Are you cuss?" I'm like, "Yeah, I cuss a lot." Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
cuss a lot. I don't cuss at church
yeah.
just out of respect.
And I think that's, I mean, it's the same reason why like we wear church clothes to church. You know what I mean? It's out of respect to God and to others, and to try to bring that spirit in. It's kind of a change, a little different than what we might do during the week. And so I think it can kind of be the same thing. But I feel like a lot of people feel like they have to hide it. They have to hide the fact that they cuss or that
Mhm.
they watch a Netflix show or whatever it is. And they can't be fully, truly authentic. And then that's when like you get the awkward elders quorum lessons or Sunday school lessons, because everyone's like, no one wants to say what they really think and what they really feel because of they're afraid to be judged for whatever's going on in their lives.
Because you're there and you're talking about Christ and learning of Christ, but the conversations about our personal relationships with Christ, they can come in, but it's like I think I actually talked about it last week
Yeah.
about I was in elders quorum, um, and they were talking about how do you hear Christ, and it's like that's something that I could share, but I didn't, um, mainly just because it freaking scares the crap out of me to talk in elders quorum. I can sit here and talk on a podcast all freaking night, but talking talking in front of people, like no.
No, I understand that. I remember you talking about that last week, and then this week, we did, it was ward conference, but like they still split it. Normally in the past they've like combined the men and the women and do kind of like a Sunday school thing, but for some reason they like left us split. But yeah, so they like we were separated, which I thought was kind of weird. And then like half the lesson was like our elders quorum leader. and then the other half was a member of the stake presidency, and then I think the stake president came in at the very end and like had a couple words that he said. So it was kind of interesting, but um, I felt the same way. Like there were some things that I was like, yeah, I could bring that up, and it was just like, it probably won't matter. I thought that that was interesting, and I thought of you and thought of other people like us who sit there in those same conversations. And I don't know what it is like, why I feel like I can't talk, or like I shouldn't talk, or like it's not worth it to talk.
I get mass anxiety when I go to talk in elders quorum or anywhere. Like I get the idea to start talking, and then I'm like formulating my thoughts in my brain or whatever, and then like my heart starts pounding like super hard, and my hands get really clammy, and I start breathing heavy, and then I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing it. And then after I'm like, I decide to not do it, like everything goes away.
Is it like, do you think is it like an irrational fear of like being judged, or like what do you think that anxiety is that builds up?
I don't know because I've had that issue with my whole life talking in front of people.
Did you feel like you had that on your mission too?
For a really long time, yeah. Yep, it took weeks for me to knock on a door, and then when I finally did, oh my gosh,
Yes, a good door knock story.
terrible. So my approach and everything like that was great. I finally get the courage to go knock on a door. It was in an apartment complex. This dude opens the door. It was already awkward at the beginning. The dude's eyes were, like, totally bloodshot. His his zipper was down, and it's like, "What?" This is weird. He's like, "Oh, like, zips it up or whatever. Do this, Bill. Go in to go into their apartment, go sit down in the living room, and we're talking, we're doing a first lesson. We're doing a first lesson and stuff, and then all of a sudden, I start hearing noises. I was like, "Oh, crap. What am I supposed to do?" I, like I 3 weeks into the mission, no idea what I'm supposed to do here. My companion was completely oblivious to it. The dude was watching porn behind us, like, directly behind us, and I was like, I don't know what to do." Like, I'm not looking over there, and and like, they were I don't remember if it was before or after they were talking about if they saw the latest episode of some porn show. Uh,
Nice. That's why his pants were down.
yeah, that's why his zipper was down, I guess. Yeah, that was the first time I ever knocked on the door, got in, taught the lesson, it was super awkward, and then after we left, I looked at my companion, I was like, "Did you not get what they were doing?" He's like, "What?" I was like, "They were watching porn behind us." He's like, "What?" He's like, all surprised, he's like, "Seriously?" He's like, "I thought he was just being noisy and interruptive," because my companion kept, like, stopping and, like, looking back at him, like, he's like, "What are you doing? Like, be quiet."
And what a great first experience.
Oh my gosh. It was not great.
The crap that you see on your mission, like, so ridiculous.
The crazy stuff that I did see was in, like, ghetto areas, because there was one area that I was in called Covington, and we were in some ghetto areas over there, and, like, a pimp was trying to sell me his team. "Hey, come check out my team." "No. No. No, I don't want to. I'm good." And there was one apartment complex that was only black people, and we would go there to teach some people, and whenever we were walking around, people would like, "What?" Like, almost like they never saw a white dude before. Like, it was weird, man, because 'cause I'm from freaking Idaho. And so, being a minority was really weird.
Yeah. Yeah, in New York City, there'd be like, yeah, ghetto apartment complexes that, yeah, are just filled with people. But like a lot of them would like we had been there, going there for so long that like they knew you, and like they knew who we were, no matter like you would change out. companions and stuff like that, and they'd still be like cool. Oh yeah, it's the missionaries, blah blah blah. They like knew everyone, so it was always kind of interesting. You felt like I don't know, they almost like protected you and stuff. They kind of knew what we stood for, and
Not where we were. No, luckily, I'm glad I was gone when this happened, but I don't, it was either the transfer after I left or 2 transfers after I left. It was with it was with my companion. He was still there when this happened, but, like, they were at home and some guys came to their apartment and, like, slammed open into their apartment, like, just came in, and they were looking around for stuff or whatever, and they're like, "We were told that you stole stuff from us. If we find it, you will die tonight." So, they were emergency transferred out of that place, and they never went back. But, yeah, it was a shady place. That's actually where I met my wife, was in that apartment complex. And anytime she was home, like, she wanted to take her kids to the park or whatever, like, we would, like, escort her around. Because if she was by herself, there's always dudes, like, going at her, and anyways, it was a crazy area.
all right, going back to anxiety.
Okay.
So in Mosiah chapter 7, verse 12, it says, when Ammon saw that he was permitted to speak, he went forth and bowed himself before the king. And rising again, he said, O king, I'm thankful before God this day that I am yet alive and am permitted to speak, and I will endeavor to speak with boldness. As a prisoner, I'm sure he was probably fed pretty poorly and stuff while he was in prison for those 3 days. So he's malnourished, tired, exhausted, scared for his life. But yet he still had the courage and stuff to speak with boldness to the king. And he's able to explain who he is and explain where he comes from. And that completely changes the relationship between him and King Lemhi. Um, and so, talking about Elder Squirm and us getting that feeling like the impressions to speak up and to say things, um, but us not having that boldness, and I'm 100% guilty of this as well, because like pretty much every time, I mean, unless I'm really not paying attention, like I'll have things that come to me, and I'm like, oh, that'd probably be pretty good to say, but I just don't say it, or like someone else speaks up and says something, and then by the time they're done talking, I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense to say now.
Yeah, that happens a lot too, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Well, going back 30 minutes before Joe said something.
So, but like I think that that's something that I mean, if you and I feel it, it's probably good odds that other people feel that same exact way.
Yeah. That's, like, more and more as, like, life goes on, is realizing if I feel it in an environment, chances are a lot of other people do too. Because there's, like, a few people that always have stuff to say, which is great. Like, that's not bashing everyone always needed. And then the rest of the people that are there probably feeling really close along the line the same way.
We can't be that way, I don't think. I don't think it's healthy for us, and I don't think
To not speak up.
yeah. And it doesn't build that brotherhood and camaraderie that we should have in elders quorum or in our Sunday schools or in those type of things. Like if 80% of the people don't feel like they can talk or should talk, then it that's a problem, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so how do you fix that? How do you make elders quorum in an environment where people feel safe to talk?
Yeah. I think I think they tried so hard before COVID happened. Do you remember when we were doing like those like discussion groups? Did your wards ever do that?
No.
So like
Do you know what I would have done if we did discussion groups? I would have gone home.
no, like no. So it was more honestly, it was like AA or something like that, where like the chairs were circled up and like everyone was just like supposedly on the same like playing field. There was like
Dude,
a discussion person,
I hated those. It was the worst. It
but
was garbage.
what I did like about it was that it wasn't so like teacher student. It was just like, hey, there's a bunch of us in a room. Let's talk about this and figure it out.
But I don't feel like most of the guys it felt like awkward.
I think it did, and I think that's because like the people that were leading it didn't know how to go about it. Cuz like they would still try to teach it like a teacher and they would like stand up and be like, "All right, everyone." And like try to like in this circle of people, like it was and I think if COVID haven't happened, like it probably could have gone somewhere. Because in my words, I felt like at first it was super ultra awkward, but then it started to get quite a bit better. But then COVID hit, and so we all went home. And then when we came back, it was just like, all right.
Dude, I just want to go back to at home church. It was awesome. We did so good with at home church.
It's like the only good thing that came from the COVID.
I could not believe like we were awesome with our come follow me. We were awesome with teaching. We had our lessons. I mean, it was it was great.
So why do you think that was? Like why? Because I felt the same way. So I'm 100% with you on that too. Like we freaking they told us we were going to do that at home church, and I feel like my wife and I took it super seriously. We were like, "All right, dude, let's do this." And like I loved doing sacrament at home. I loved like everything about it. We just freaking rocked it. So why do you think that is, and why do you think we don't have that same enthusiasm when it comes to church?
Probably because of the teaching style for one.
Yeah.
Um, like elders quorum is 90% of the time sitting down reading through a talk and asking questions here and there about it, trying to get a discussion going, but there never is one. Um, I mean, that's probably really like one of the biggest things for me is like we had really good lessons. Like the lessons were awesome. And our kids were it was a lot easier to get like our kids involved and they were talking to us and asking questions and at church you just sit there.
Yeah. Did you like prepare it beforehand?
Yeah, well we used to do come follow me. Like we used to be really, really good at doing come follow me every single day. And so we do come follow me every day throughout the week. And then Sunday would come and then we would have the come follow me lesson. And so yeah, we were prepared for it and everything like that. Just for whatever it was just easier to do.
Yeah. Did I felt the same way. I'm kind of trying to dig for my own like reasoning why too, but I feel like I don't feel like I'm getting as prepared for church as I did for at home church.
Well, I never even know what the talk that we're studying for Elders Quorum until we're sitting there for Elders Quorum.
Yeah. Do my ward recently has started like emailing, hey, this is what the talks that we're going over on Sunday or whatever. Have you ever had that?
Well,
Or
they used to do texting in like a mass text, and I was like, "You are not allowed to mass text me. Do not do it." And so that they might do it through there, but they don't. They definitely don't email. And if they do it through Facebook, I'm not on Facebook.
no, I'm the same way. I'm not on any social media and stuff. I think they're trying to get it to where it works in the app.
Well, they should. Like that's what it's for. I mean,
And I think that hopefully will come in time.
circles is what it is. Yeah.
I just get like sometimes I get like a random update on the phone that's like these are your hymns for on Sunday, and
Yeah. So you have to have. Am I going to screw up my mic? You have to have somebody actually go in and set that up. So I see that like when I go into my thing, but nobody ever sets it up. Yeah,
Interesting. I wonder how hard that is to set up.
it's probably not hard. It's probably really easy, but it's a different app that does the communication stuff.
Interesting. Okay. Because I get updates. I think they might be like trying to merge it or something right now. Because I get updates right in the. It's not the tools one. It's the gospel library. Where so
About Elders Quorum?
um, I don't know that I've seen the Elders Quorum ones come through there, but I do get for sure like these are the hymns for sacrament meeting, and these are the announcements.
Tools is actually so they have, they have the library, they have tools, and then they have, I think the app is called Circles.
I have circles. I've never used that one. I've never even heard of that.
It's like the social media for the church.
Interesting. So does it? I'll have to look this up. Gospel Living Circles.
Yeah.
Interesting. Creates groups for you based on membership information. Gives you a circle for your family, your Sunday school class, your quorum, young women's, and depending on your calling, your presidency. Interesting.
Yeah. Like that's what they need to use it.
Why is this not talked about?
Download the app. It's like we have a good resource. Like I don't know why people don't use it. But they don't. Like we've tried to get people to use it in our ward, like for activity days, and there's just certain people like, I'm not using it. Be like, why not? Because I don't want to download the app.
That's cool. Simply type your message and it goes out to everyone in the circle. Interesting. Dude, I had no idea that this existed. I'm totally bringing this up because this is way cool. Um, but I think that, yeah, no, that's cool. I'll have to totally bring that up. I didn't even know that that was a thing. So you just taught me something. But dude, even like stuff like that, like I feel like that would bring so much. Cause even if I could just like text the whole, cause I'm the same way. I get like a huge group text. Half the text are numbers that I don't have saved in my phone. So it's just like random people responding to something, and then the other half of the time like no one responds, so there's just a message that goes out, hey, so and so's moving in the ward on Saturday, can you come help out? And then it's just like silent. Crickets, no one says a word. And so it's like okay.
See, I never know about any of that stuff. I have no problem helping people move. I just never know about it.
Yeah.
Probably because I don't let them mass text me. It's like you can email me, you can even call me.
Yeah.
That's fine. Well, it depends what you're calling me for. If you're calling me because somebody needs service, then go ahead and call me. If you want to call me because you want to talk about a quarterly report on my ministering, no. You can go after yourself. I'm not doing that.
I'm totally gonna have to download this app now and check it out. Because yeah, even like we're activity days leaders, and like we have a text thread with like all the moms. um anyway, I'll have to check that out. That's pretty cool. And I think using the same boldness that Ammon did will help us and others in general.
I actually wish we used "Come Follow Me" in Elders Quorum. Like I don't get why we don't use it. Like why are we going through talks? Why aren't we going through "Come Follow Me"?
I don't get it. I think it's like it's to review conference talks, which is fine, but it's weird to me because then it's like, okay, then every other week we're not talking about Come Follow Me,
Yeah,
and
you'll be doing it by yourself.
you can talk about conference talks while you're doing the Come Follow Me. But yeah, I feel the same way. I'm like, what? Why are we talking about this? And sometimes it'll be like, all right, dude, it's this one talk. But then other times it's like, there's four talks we're going over. And I'm just like, dude, I'm not reading four talks to try to like have, like, it's like, dude, like, calm down.
Listen, I have a hard enough time even going through my "Come Follow Me" for the week, and now you're wanting me to read a talk.
What is like how would we do that? I'm trying to think. So as a member of the quorum,
Dude, it's not gonna happen. As like a church in a whole, it can happen in. I think it could happen in very small pocket. Well, in quorums that are like tight knit, and the thing is, like, you have to get people to open up. if you can't get people to open up, you'll never get there. Because like in other group settings, like going through like going through uh like addiction recovery groups, like what just happened? There you go. Going through addiction recovery groups, it's really easy. Like once you get there and you sit there and you're talking with people or whatever, like it's really scary at first, but then once you start talking and you're like and everyone else is talking, and I guess that's part of the thing. It's like there's you learn to be okay with silence at an addiction recovery group because it's you go and like the one I went to was like you like open for sharing, and then you would just like sit there and nobody would say anything for a while, and then you would have specific people that were used to doing it, and they would talk, and then another person, and then the people who were used to talking would like pause in between other people talking to give a chance for somebody else to talk. And so if you can't get every person like in there engaging, then it just doesn't happen. And so when you have these elders quorum lessons where you have the teacher up there talking, and one, they either talk, and they never shut up. Like you'll never have that environment with a teacher that's like that ever. And then if you have one that is talking, and then you have, your two or three guys that always give their 2 cents, which grateful for them, because if we had not that didn't have them, then it would only be the teachers that talk the whole time. Um, but it's like you have to get through an uncomfortable phase to where the teacher's like, here's the question, share. And then they just sit there and twiddle their thumbs until people start talking. But then the people who are talking, you either tell them to not talk, or you just continue to sit there and twiddle your thumbs after they talk. Like, who's next? But it's like you have to be careful though, because there's some people who are just straight not allowed to speak or participate. They can go and they can listen, but they can't be a participant. Like there was a time when I was not allowed to participate. I could go, I wasn't allowed to pray. I just could just go. And so like being called on when you're in that situation is mortifying. So it's like, "Hey, will you pray?" No, I'm good, thanks." It's like you have to say no, like you have to. And so I don't think it actually ever happened to me.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Would they? Sorry, I don't have experience there, so I'm just genuinely curious. Do you know if like do they tell the teachers like, oh hey, by the way,
I'm not sure.
you don't know. Okay.
I'm not sure, but I think that's why they usually ask for volunteers instead of just saying, "Will you do this?" Um, I think that the elders quorum president would probably know, and maybe the presidency, but not the teachers. Yeah, and so the elders quorum president would know to not call on specific people, but it's like if they handed me a note to read, no, no thanks. But it's like, but the teachers don't understand that, and they find it really awkward and like offensive. So it's like you might be someone who's just not allowed to. And so that's why it's like you also have to be careful. You don't want to call people out, because there might be people in there who aren't allowed to say stuff, who aren't allowed to participate, and they're just allowed to just be there. And so,
Well, and I think you can get the same effect with volunteers.
right. Well, you want it to be volunteers because you want the people to want to share, and because there's people there that do want to share, but they're like me and you, where they don't feel like comfortable enough to do so. and then
or they're not like fast enough. Like sometimes I feel like the question's asked and then yeah, like the same four people, boom, they like jump on it and you're like, oh, okay.
yeah, and then that's another thing. It's like allowing other people a chance to respond,
Mm,
and then when somebody answers it, like continue the discussion.
yeah.
Like don't be so fast to run away, especially if like there's a good conversation that gets started. Who freaking cares if you don't get through all the material?
Every little, yeah, thing that
Like,
you
who
have to say,
cares?
yeah.
Like, the best lessons you'll ever have is when you get a good discussion going about a topic, and if it deviates off the lesson plan, like, who cares?
Yeah.
The people who are talking probably need this specific conversation to happen, so just let it happen. Who cares if it goes off course?
It's like
And
the
so I think
person.
that's another thing, or people are so tied to like, well, we have to get through the lesson. It's like, no, you don't. Like just let the conversation take place.
Whatever you prepared is not more important than where the spirit directs it.
Exactly.
It's like the teacher should be like that Homer Simpson meme when he like just backs into the bushes, like get the conversation started and then just like take off.
Yeah.
Um, no, like I I think I genuinely think that like we're touching on something that is so important. And just tonight, the more that we talk about it, I do think the church was trying to get us there before COVID hit. And then I think, a year later when we kind of started to jump back into things, it kind of just like went by the wayside and people just went back to like what they know church to. I really do now that I'm thinking about it more because it really was like I remember in our ward, like we would like turn the chairs into a circle. Like the whole thing was different and weird. And like I remember for the first couple of weeks, it was super weird and everyone was like, this is crazy. But then like as we started to do it, more and more people started to talk and it started to get better.
You should go to a you should go to an addiction recovery group just to
I
check
think you
it
should
out.
just
Yeah,
no, I totally
I haven't been in forever,
yeah.
but they're actually you go to those and you're like, if we could just get Elders Quorum like this, oh my gosh. Like you those meetings are so crazy.
Yeah.
Like well, at least the way that they used to be.
Yeah.
Um, because it was like people were vulnerable, they were honest, they were really talking about their struggles and their strengths, not just their struggles, like, they were talking about their strengths as well, like, things that went good or whatever. Um, and and then, like, the conversations that you had with people after were just, like, mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's like, if I could get church to be like this, I would love church.
Yeah. Well, dude, and that like you aren't the first person in the last like 3 weeks that has told me that. And I've had conversations with less active people who said, like, there's not a reason to go to church because we're not getting that.
The only reason to go to church for me is to take the sacrament.
Yeah. No, and like that most weeks that's enough. My wife and I went to church this week. My whole family didn't want to. Saturday night, my 6-year-old daughter comes up and she's like, "Dad, do we have to go to church tomorrow?" Like, she was already dreading it Saturday night, and we, like, got up and went, and we took the sacrament, and, like, we were underwhelmed in our classes, but, like, we were there, and it was fine, and we were uplifted just because that we were there, like, my wife and I both felt that, but it could be so much more, and we need to figure out how to do that, and I think we have kind of a unique opportunity because we're not in the same ward that we can try different things to help it out and see what we can kind of make of it. Part of I've never been to a addiction recovery thing. Is the is the is it anonymity? What's like anonymous?
Yeah,
Is that part, do you think, why it's so easy to open up?
Probably part of the trust. Yeah.
Hardly ever gonna like, I'm never gonna see these people again unless it's in a meeting like this.
Yeah. Well, when you go to a church one, you see them all the time. Like you run into them all the time at church or at the stake or whatever.
Our church did that. So they have like
You didn't?
no. Oh, dude. Interesting. Okay. So it's like a stake
Yeah.
addiction recovery meeting. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, no, I've only ever seen it on like Fight Club and crap like that. So like no, I've never seen any of that. Okay. So that's interesting. Like I know
But here's the problem with most of the church's groups. So I've been to some regular ones, and then I went to some like special ones that the church actually eventually shut down because the curriculum they were using wasn't sanctioned by the church, and so they shut the meeting down, which was a huge. We had like over 30 guys coming every single week to this meeting from just the stake, from just our stake, and they shut it down because of the curriculum we were using, and it went down to like 4 people.
what was the
It
curriculum.
was called Healing Through Christ. Dude, it's it's phenomenal. It is amazing. Um, but, what's his name? Oh, wait, what was he saying? I already forgot what I was talking about.
They shut down the group. It went from 30 to 4.
Yeah, but I forgot what my point was.
Um you went to that one and then you've been to some other ones.
Oh, okay. So the special ones were started and led by people struggling with addiction. The A lot of these, um, addiction recovery groups that the church holds are ran by old missionaries who have never struggled with addiction before in their life. And so you have these people who have no business being leading these classes, leading them. Some of them are good, but some of them are absolute garbage.
They just don't know what they're talking about because they don't have real life experience with
Yeah,
it.
like, this was one of the reasons why I stopped going was because I went to one of these classes, and this missionary showed up who had no business being there. He wasn't a recovering addict. The guy who was facilitating the group was, but this missionary who was overseeing stuff was not. And he, the facilitator gave the floor to him, and he started talking about, like, this, like, near-death experience that he had, where he had a heart attack, his heart stopped, he was brought back to life, and he's like, "When I was brought back, I had an experience, and I just thought to myself, I was like, 'How could I ever offend my savior again?'" It's like, "Think about it, guys. Would you ever do this, and would you ever go and you offend a friend?" It's like, the way that he presented that to a bunch of freaking addicts who are struggling with addiction, you just totally made them backstep way like, a lot. Like, those kinda comments and that kinda teaching is what pisses me off with people in the church who don't freaking get it, and they have no business being in a place where they're at. Like, that guy had no freaking business being there because he had no idea what he was talking about. Like, if that's where he's at with his spiritual journey, good for him. That is not where 99% of these dudes that are in that room are. They're all guys who are struggling, and you just told them all that how dare they do anything to offend the Savior. Really? For reals, man, like, I was pissed. Like, while that guy was talking, I looked over at the facilitator, I was like and he, like, looked over because he knew instantly when that guy started talking, he knew instantly it was gonna freaking light me up.
Yeah, wasn't a good thing.
Oh,
Well, and it's such a Like it really is one of those things that you don't understand unless you've gone through it, or you've dealt with it and had to struggle with it.
It's people like that who think the pray harder gospel is a reality.
Yeah, and that it always works, and that it
All you gotta do is just read more scriptures and pray more, and then you'll be fine. No, dumbass, it's not how it freaking works.
no, I think that's cool. No, but it would I should definitely look into it. Oh, it's good. It's what I wanted. It's authentic Christian. No, our a couple of weeks ago, our stake did an addiction. It was like a weekend conference. I don't know what you'd call it. Like
There's actually some really good guys out in Star.
that's I think our we've got a couple of really good guys, and I think one or two of them in our ward. Um, but they like the Sunday after, I think, was Fast Sunday, and dude, there were like 5 or 6 people that like bore their testimonies about the addiction recovery conference, and I was just like, "Oh, dude, I should have gone."
They're so good. If you get the right guys doing it, they are amazing. And the thing about here's the crazy thing about, like, addiction recovery is, like, I've told my mom, I was like, you know, going through addiction recovery has been, like, a blessing and a curse because it's been a blessing because I've like, I understand and know how to utilize the atonement. It's a curse because I feel like when I go to church, nobody teaches how to do that, and it's like, it drives me crazy, and I I I I've had a chance to teach some kids before, and I've had a good experience, and I had kids that are just like, and it's it's like, it just makes me not wanna go to church even more. It's like
Well, addiction's hard because you have to the person really does have to want to overcome it in order to exactly. Like, it's kinda like, you can't just say, "Oh, hey, pray harder," or, "Oh, hey, utilize the atonement." If the person is in a place where they're just, like, either okay with their addiction and they're just, like, cruising, or, like, they've gone so far into one direction to where it's just like, "There's no hope, I'm just gonna be stuck here forever, so I'm just gonna be stuck here forever." Um, there's there's a lot of truth to that, but I
overcome
think that's,
it.
like, it's the beauty of the gospel that there's such a wide variety of things that people struggle with that they have to figure out, and that requires the atonement to figure.
And that's the thing, like, when you go to addiction recovery, like, you originally go when you first start going,
Mhm.
you think you're going to, like, overcome your addiction.
Yeah,
Like, that's what you assume you're doing.
yeah,
But when you're there and you start learning and you start understanding the atonement, you're like, "Holy crap. I'm not here to just, like, get rid of my addiction. I am here to just to change basically who you are." And not who you are as, like, a like, there's I don't know how to phrase that. Anyways, um, not necessarily change, like, who you are authentically, but, like, there's, uh, y when you start going through it, like, you realize, like, these different weaknesses you have and this and that, and you're like, "Oh, holy crap. This is all part of this," and it's actually in reality has nothing to do with addiction. The addiction only got you to recovery groups, so you could actually learn how to really utilize the atonement.
yeah, it's all about the Savior.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's the beauty of it, and I think that's the reason why Elders Quorum would be so much more powerful if it was taught that way, rather than a lesson in church or something. And it's interesting because, like, even education now, we're realizing, or I'm coming to realize that, like, the way that you teach isn't like to have a lesson. And like even tonight I noticed it with our kids. We did family home evening. And when I was little, we did family home evening, but there was always like a lesson. It was always like, "Oh, we're going to talk about love at home or whatever." And we would open up the scriptures and read scriptures, and it was like mundane as a kid because it's like we're always opening up the scriptures and reading them. And like now as an adult, I can read them and be like, "Oh, like see why." So like I understand why they were doing it this way. But like tonight in our lesson, my daughter Olivia gets a computer from her school, and she's been like super diligent all year about making sure that like she always has it and it's always charged, and she returns her charger to school and all this stuff. Anyway, she lost her charger coming home from school on Friday. And so she like didn't realize it until like Saturday night, but like it like ruined her weekend. Like she was so terrified that like if she didn't have her charger, they're turning their laptops in this coming week, and she was terrified that if she didn't have her charger, she was going to get into big trouble. So she was super worried about it all weekend. And um, anyway, one of her friends at school ended up finding the charger. She had dropped it on the playground or something, and she got it turned back today. But so today our lesson was literally like we reviewed that whole thing because like we prayed over the weekend that she could find it. We looked all over the house because she didn't know where it was. And then finally we were like, hey, it's either gonna be at school or we'll have to buy another one, and it's not a big deal. So like that's kind of how we calmed her down. But today, so like we reviewed the whole experience and we were like, all right, we're gonna say a prayer and we're thanking God because he like we found our charger and we didn't have to pay for a new one and all this stuff. And like I realized that that type of lesson goes a lot further than like what I had in family home evening when I was little. And like she was engaged, she understood, she was the one that wanted to give the prayer at the end to like thank God. So like the way that it was taught, we utilized something from her life and like created a lesson around it and showed her through her experience how Christ is in her life rather than just like, oh, here's a lesson about Christ or oh, here's a lesson about Nephi or whatever. Um, and like I feel like Elders Quorum can be the same way. If it was like, all right, everyone, we're talking about this today. Does anyone have an experience about this specific to like this week, something that's going on in your life? Like I feel like if you kind of did it as a discussion that way, and not everything works that way, but like it would be so much easier than just like reading conference talks that people talk about because it's like we talked about that the other day. It's like the conference talks have to be to such a wide variety of people that it's not personable. So like going back and like reading through it, you can apply stuff to yourself, but it's hard to do that in a group setting, and it could be so much better. So um I want to try to be better at that. I want to try to be better at having more meaningful discussions.
Challenge this week is Elders Quorum.
Is it? Is it? Okay. Because I'm like, I feel like I just did it.
It is. Yeah. Well, you felt like you just did it because you just had word conference. And so
So let's do it. Let's see how it goes. Was that your challenge? What's your challenge?
that's your challenge.
That's my challenge.
My challenge is just to get to church.
We both have to talk about it. We both have to talk about it. No, I'll try it. Because I do. I think it would make it such a cool experience.
But it's like, how do you, but here's the hard thing. Like we could share all we want, but it's I don't want to be another person that just starts sharing.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. So what I think we should try just for this week, just share. Whatever it is that comes, let's share it. Okay? And that's the challenge this week. And I just want to see like how we feel, if that opens up a different conversation or discussion.
End it with a question to other people.
Okay. That's a good one too. Try to like open it up rather than just like a statement like
'Cause, like, I've tried to do that in the past, and I don't think the way that I did it really worked. But, like, I'll try to get a discussion going on something, and so, like, I'll ask and maybe the question just sucks. Like, that they could be just as blatant, like, as easy as that. That I ask a question, and then someone's like, "Well, it's this," and, like, they say, like, 3 words, and then it moves on, like, crap. It's like, I feel like a dumbass.
Well, and sometimes you're gonna say that, and sometimes you'll feel that way. But but I think if we just start with being bold and saying what comes to our heart, because it generally comes every time, like I said, unless I'm just like playing on my phone or something. Like if I'm listening and paying attention, stuff will come to me that's like, "Hey, you could share that," or like, "Hey, you could talk about this."
Thing is, I sit in those quorum, and I just, like, think about how I just wanna fight everybody.
So I could totally choke that dude.
I could choke him out.
How many of these guys can I take out before anyone does anything?
Well, they're all, like, 150, so it'd be really easy. They're seriously so old.
Well, let's do that, and I challenge anyone else listening to this to do the same.
Do it. Let's do it.
Let's try to change some of this stuff because I think it's important. And like I said, like I've talked to 4 or 5 people in the last 6 months that have said that it would make a difference in their church attendance if they felt like it was a more meaningful Sunday school activity. Exactly. Well, sweet, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their week.
Deuces.
Steadfast warrior.